Also new tonight here in The Current, a group of Illinois election officials are back home after they traveled to Washington, D.C. Back at the end of April, several county clerks from across Illinois and the country were in the nation's capital to speak with legislators about election infrastructure. Among them was Scott Erickson, Knox County's clerk and recorder, who joins us right now here on The Current. Scott, thank you so much for taking time out of your day and being here with us. I want to start with more of the big picture here. When we talk about election infrastructure, literally what does that mean?
It is the underpinnings, the backbone of these operations, the funding that we need for our cybersecurity and cybersecurity updates and continual trainings and protections. It is for equipment, the hardware for the voting machines, the software to be able to upload those votes to the systems to be able to make them work. Just a lot of the underpinnings, kind of that ground base of operations that we all fall back on, and we have to have a strong, solid base in order to be able to continue to build safe and solid elections.
And I think it's important to point out that not all of these things are one-time costs. It's not like, oh, we bought the voting booth machine, now we don't have to put any money toward our voting machines for the next few years. It takes a lot of investment. And I'm curious, looking ahead to November and this year's midterm election, how much money does it cost Knox County to put on November's election? And how much of that comes from the county versus the state versus the feds?
90%, actually even more than that, is coming from the county itself. The federal funding that we were looking at with this project was to help that backbone, those continual high dollar costs. We don't get a lot of federal money back for running the election itself, the individual elections. The state will give us a little bit, but the majority of that is on our county taxpayers. Last time we did a study, it was about $35,000 to run an election, whether it was a small one or a big one. So that's a lot of money to put out with two elections this year, with a primary and a general. So now you're looking at $70,000 that we've got to fit into a budget, and the county's budget has always been tight. So being able to find the funding to be able to make that happen, we've got to do it. So it's just been a lot of creative, well, I'll not do these projects this year so we can cover that. Or now that we've only got one election and you want to pick these projects back up and do things. So we've got to do a lot of times, it's a lot of long-term planning to be able to accommodate and afford these different projects.
Yes, and knowing that it takes that long-term planning, it takes a lot of investment. What kind of conversations were you having with lawmakers in D.C.?
Well, we had gone in the fall and talked to them about revamping the HAVA, the Help America Vote Act funding that was used back in 2004 to help us get our first run of panel voting equipment. That funding at one point in time was up to $400 million. That had been bounced around and cut down. And when we went out to speak with them before, it was at $15 million. After our conversations with them, I like to think it was because of all of us out there, they've raised it up to $40 million. That's nationwide $40 million. It was discussed back now that they're looking at bringing it back down to 15. We went back out and gave them the full pitch. We really need $400 million and a continual guaranteed funding base of $400 million to be able to do a lot of these things that we need. Knox County bought new voting equipment. If we'd had HAVA money available, it would have saved us a ton of money. Instead, we had to go out and get a loan to pay for our $500,000 worth of voting equipment. Where back in 2004, 90% of that cost was paid for by federal funds. So it helped alleviate the cost to our taxpayers. I hate having to put the money back, the burden back on our taxpayers, because they work hard for the money and they deserve to be able to keep as much as they can. But we had to make this move. We had to make the move at this time because the equipment was just getting so old. It was still accurate, still everything was working, but finding replacement parts was near impossible to find. We had to piecemeal things together sometimes to get some of that to work. The new equipment is amazing. The primary voters loved it. We're looking forward to November, where the rest of the voters get to come out and see how much fun it is to vote on the new voting machines in Knox County.
Scott, I'm glad that you brought up some of those numbers, and I don't want this to get lost because it is a lot of numbers we're throwing at people, but essentially, election officials across the country say nationwide we need $400 million a year for election infrastructure. What Congress is giving is much less than $400 million. They're giving anywhere between $15 million some years to $40 million, take last year. So I want to ask, what happens in Knox County if nothing changes, this $400 million does not get passed, and you really don't get that increase you need for election infrastructure?
it will make it tough because that 15 million that they had was spread across all 50 states. Every election authority, 102 in Knox County. Every other state has got multiple election authorities that are trying to divvy up that small pot of money that's available. We had Tazewell County that went along with us to the lobbying day. They added poll books, and they had a grant. They were able to slide in on an end of a grant that had some leftover money available through the Fed's side of things to pay for all of that. Otherwise, that'd have been 300 and some thousand that their taxpayers would have had to pay on top of the 500,000 that we had. You're almost at $1 million right there just for 2 counties in mid-state Illinois. That's not to say any of the bigger communities, the bigger in Chicago and all these other, Los Angeles, Texas, Florida, all these states that got lots and lots of voters are all looking to get that money to be able to help build back that infrastructure, keep that baseline safe. If we didn't get any of the funding, we don't get any of the funding, it's just going to be more, we're going to have to do a lot more of dropping a certain plan to pick up the money to be able to do what we have to do. Cybersecurity is always changing. There's always something new that we've always got to be pushing money towards that to stay on the cutting edge to keep those elections safe. And those nefarious actors always come up with a new way of trying to screw with stuff. And the tech guys are always trying to find ways to stop them from screwing with the stuff, and then all of it costs money. So it's tough to be able to kind of justify those means. Okay, I'm not going to put money towards cyber because I want to buy something else, and then get hacked. And then how do you explain to your voters, oh yeah, we got hacked because I didn't want to spend the money on cybersecurity. I wanted to spend it on this. But there's also the argument of, well, we needed to have that, so we were just hoping we could avoid it on the cybersecurity. I'm a big cybersecurity guy. I love trying to stay on top of that and watch those things and just being careful and cautious. So it'd be tough for me to say I'm not going to fund some cyber side of things. We'd probably give up something on the infrastructure side. We wouldn't necessarily bring in poll books as soon as we want to, or we wouldn't add additional equipment in if we needed to. The equipment we bought will get us through with some reserves, but we always want to have backups in place in case something happens with the machine, that we can replace those quickly and get those up and running.
Scott, I want to end on this. A 2021 analysis by the Election Infrastructure Initiative found, and again, this is, we're talking 5 years ago, that it would cost $53 billion over 10 years to fully modernize America's election infrastructure. Knowing that, what kind of conversations specifically are you having with our Illinois state lawmakers in D.C., but also some of the more national lawmakers that you were speaking with?
Right. Our conversation, we had 8 meetings when we went out to do our lobby day, covering the Illinois delegation and some other groups, and got positive feedback. All of them, when we explained, they're hearing it straight from us in the field. We're on the front lines dealing with the voters that are voting to put them in office in D.C. So we kind of brought that to them, and they were like, oh, yeah, we absolutely support this. We had great response and feedback from them. It's just that dollar, that billions of dollars, freaks people out. And, well, we could spend this on something else. We spend it on something else. Like, yeah, but we really need to spend it here. And that part of that 85 or the billions of dollars would be for modernizing equipment. We've already taken care of some of that. But if the HAVA money was reinstated, we may be able to get reimbursed for that voting equipment to be able to offset that bill that we had. So now my taxpayers aren't stuck holding the bag. And that was my big push too, is when we talking to them, it's like, we just bought equipment. I held off on buying equipment, hoping that you guys would fund this project and this fund. We went and hold off as long as we could. Now we had to pull the trigger. But can we get this reimbursed after the fact so that we're not leaving our taxpayers holding an undue burden to them? So it's a lot of discussion, a lot of conversations, a lot of, oh, I didn't realize you guys did that, or that was part of this. But those big numbers, you get into the billions and it starts scaring a lot of these people. And it scares a lot of us. I mean, that's a lot of money that we're investing and putting into our equipment and our infrastructures to be able to maintain that safety and security. And it just getting our people, fellow clerks and recorders in the state and other states, feeling comfortable with being able to go and ask, you know what, hey, we've got a need. We know you're not necessarily going to give us the whole billions of dollars we necessarily want, but can you put this at a level funding source at $400 million a year? That gives us enough money that through all 50 states we can spread that money around, get everybody something that they need, and at least have that revenue source they know is coming. If I knew that $400 million was coming, I might have waited a year to buy the voting equipment and then got it all through the grant. everyone in the clerk cell have their different ideas and processes and flows of how they want to proceed and how they want to continue to build that infrastructure. But everything costs money. In the election world, nothing is cheap. So from the mandates for us to do permanent vote by mails and having sorting equipment to be able to process things, it all adds up. And at the end of the day, there's a big price tag sitting on the top of our heads of what we've got to come into our county saying, here's my budget, and 90% of it is stuff that I have to have, and there's really no negotiation to it. Makes it tough for the other side of our office. My recording side, we may have to cut something back on their budget line items to cover some of those things. So it's robbing Peter to pay Paul. If the feds were able to come up and get us to that 400 million, or at least get us close to the 400 million, but at a consistent level, we're going to continue to fund this for the next 10, 20, 30 years. That gives us the opportunity to do some long range planning, apply for these grants, get the best bang for our buck. We can shop these ideas and projects and get the best price for them, so that we're not going out just, oh, I got $10 million to spend, I'm going to jump and buy the first guy that says, oh, I get this for 10 million. Maybe the next person could have got it to me for 5. If we have the opportunity to shop these around and get the best price for our dollars, it's going to be better for our taxpayers. It's going to be better for the rest of us, because I'm not taking 10 million out of that 400 million. Now I'm only maybe taking 5 out of that. So being very cautious and conscious with our taxpayer dollars, being creative with how we are building our long-term plans and structures and where we see our elections going, and how to try to address some of those things in the horizon that aren't necessarily real clear. Everything kind of gets shady sometimes with everybody's talking about different stuff and changing rules and moving things around. So we just got to do our best effort to try to be able to do the best we can for the voters that have put us into these offices. And I think we accomplished it. It was a great trip. It was a great opportunity. The best part, there was no taxpayer, it was no cost to us. There was private grants that paid for this to be able to send us out there. There was over like 26 or 27 states that were involved, over 100 people that were in this delegation group that went out there. So we got to meet the other election officials from these other states, people from Kentucky, from Texas, from different places. And our problems are their problems are our problems. It's all the same concepts of things, because elections are elections. But how do they deal with something? How do they address vote by mail issues? Oh, I never thought about that. Maybe we should try that. We can bring those ideas back to Illinois. So it's just kind of a unique opportunity to not only lobby our legislators for funding, but then also be able to talk with our constituent, our fellow clerk base, and kind of get an ideas of, hey, what are you guys doing for this? Hey, what are you doing for that? Maybe we could do that back here in Knox County, bring this back to Illinois.
Well, you're certainly going to have a very busy year ahead of you. Looking forward to November. So, Scott, I am so thankful for your time, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon before this midterm
Absolutely
election.
Appreciate it. Anytime. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thank you. And if you guys at home want to share this story, you can find our online version up at WQAD.com underneath the As Seen on TV tab at the top of the homepage.